Hey everybody, in this video I'm going to talk about how bad money choices causes divorce. So let's save your marriage. Today in this video I want to talk about a topic that's actually been true for a very long time. And that idea is that financial challenges are actually what cause more than half of the divorces in the world. So let's think about that for a second. We're talking about actually at least 59% of marriages fail because of bad financial decisions or financial surprises that come after the honeymoon. So, remember something too. This is not just limited to marriage. This also has to do with other kinds of partnerships, friends that go in business together, or family members that go into business together. Really what you're talking about is managing expectations. But let's talk about some of those numbers right now. Debt.com noted in their article that more than 59% of divorced couples contributed divorce to financial challenges, to money. More than 21% actually said specifically that money was why they got divorced. I mean, that's a significant number of folks who admit consciously. Now, what they're not saying in that survey also is that pretty much all those divorces probably stem from financial challenges of one kind or another. Really what you're talking about, again, as I said, is a management of expectations. And you've already kind of been set up to fail in this particular society, especially in America, with so much consumerism pushed down your throat every day through social media and on television and on the radio and everything. I mean, part of our culture as Americans and most of the developed world even is that, well, you've got to get married and then you got to get a house for your family to live in. You got to have a car and you also have to have kids. And, then you want to have a pet, of course, too, to show off to your neighbors and to your friends and your coworkers. And then, of course, you got to take the family on vacation. Oh, and by the way, the family costs money for medical bills and groceries and heating and things in the house that break down. You're set up to pay a lot of other people and other businesses money for the rest of your life if you buy into that model. See, that's one of the challenges, is that actually folks don't realize they have a choice in deciding whether they want to participate in that type of lifestyle. Well, most people watching this video might say, well, of course I want to participate. It looks so wonderful to have all those things and all of the, have the children in the house, and isn't it so romantic? You know what? The fact of the matter is that is not always the case. Many people get in those situations and discover that they are not happy at all with their life. They have a great job that pays a lot of money. They have a beautiful wife that loves them, or a husband that loves them. They have kids that love them. They have friends and family, and they have great careers. Everything, all their bills are paid, and yet they still find themselves miserable. Okay, so it's coming back to really managing your expectations honestly, not just with your partner, but also with yourself. More importantly, with yourself. But what we're focusing on in this video is the idea that most relationships fall apart because of money. Now, why would that be true? It isn't just because of the 6 reasons that Debt.com actually listed in their article, which I'll tell you in just a second. But actually, more importantly, is the idea that people are not giving themselves the freedom to be able to discover, or to not just discover, but once they discover, experience who they really are. They're buying into a model that's flawed for them. They believe that they want it until they're in the middle of it. You believe you want a house until you're paying the mortgage every month, and you're paying the insurance every month, and you have to fix the water heater, and you have to mow the grass, and you have to fix the roof when the tree cracks a hole in it, and you have to fix and pay, and things go wrong. I mean, it's not always perfect, right? but you're sold the idea that, oh, isn't it wonderful to own a home? It's a huge responsibility. Oh, and by the way, it takes a lot of time, let alone the financial investment. So you talk about housewives, right? That's a full-time position. A housewife does what a maid would do, a butler would do, and if you have kids, a nanny as well. Oh, and by the way, there's professions of people who make their living cooking and actually walking the dogs, taking care of the pets. I mean, you're talking about a housewife does all of those things all day long. Their responsibilities are almost like a janitor, to maintain the household, and then like a chef to cook all the food, and then like a laundry service. So you think about that. Oh, I want to own a home and everything else that comes with it, right? This is like when you buy a car and you realize that, oh shoot, I've got to pay for insurance, I got to pay for new tires, I got to pay for new brakes, I got to buy gas, I got to pay for oil changes, I got to, every once in a while, after a while, I got to get new belts, I got to get antifreeze if something goes wrong, I got to refill my windshield fluids. It becomes very expensive to own a car. Oh, but it's okay because it's so nice to have the freedom to drive around. Well, what if you had another way of getting around? Or what if you had a car that actually didn't use most of those things? Now, that's a whole different topic. So back to the idea of finance destroying relationships, especially marriages. By not being honest with what you really want and what you really need and communicating that with your partner, your expectations are not met, and then that builds frustration. Now, what makes it worse is when you don't have enough money to give you the freedom, right? The freedom and the opportunity to change your lifestyle, to try something different and not feel like you're letting your partner down and not being able to hold up the end that you promised them. See, that's the thing. A lot of folks get married and they promise each other, oh, well, I want you to be able to have the kids and stay home and take care of, and I want you to live your dreams, and I'm happy to work and support that. Or the housewife who says, I'm happy to take care of the house and help you build your career and become this successful individual and build all of this reputation for yourself. And I don't need it because I'm your partner and I support you and love you. And then years later, you realize you have nothing except the fact that you took care of the house and nobody knows that you have any skills at all. I mean, that happens all the time. So really what you have to do is you have to be honest with yourself and with your spouse, and then build the wealth. Find out how to generate wealth for both of you, right? That you both have, especially once you discover the secret of residual income. When you discover the secret of true residual income, you can decide that, you know what? I'm not happy with this life anymore. We have kids, we have the car, we have the house, and I have the wonderful career, but you know what? I'm just not happy. But you know what? We have all this money coming in. I want to take a year off and try and find something that I'm more passionate about. And since we have this money coming in now, I can actually know that, you know what, you're my wife and my kids will be taken care of. We can either keep this house, or we can move to someplace else, or we can try living somewhere else and we don't have to have a car, or we can get a different car. Or maybe we have enough true residual income coming in that we both can take time off and fall in love again. Fall in love with ourselves and our kids and discover more about them and what they like. I mean, think about that. That's one of the things that we teach actually in the course that we have, The Richest You Mastering Money, is that finance gives you freedom and opportunity to actually come to a point in your life where I was told this was what I should do, right? I should go and get my PhD, and I should become a professor, and I should get the house and the car and the kids and the wife, and I've done all those things, you know, and for a while it felt really good, but now I'm not really happy. I don't feel like this is really what I want. Money gives you the opportunity to change directions and not be afraid of being able to feed yourself and feed your family and take care of them, right? So when marriages end because of finance, it's because more often than not, they're not communicating, they're not managing their expectations well, and even worse, they don't have enough for the things they actually want to do. So the biggest 6 things that Debt.com lists are as follows. So number 1 on the list from Debt.com, overspending. People overspend constantly. It's so easy to swipe the credit card. It's so easy to swipe the debit card. In fact, technology has made it so easy to spend money, it's not even real. You're not taking money out of your pocket. It's ones and zeros you never see. And so there's never that impact of, wow, I'm giving this away. It's just a swipe and bam, you're done. And wow, you feel great. Wow, I made that purchase. Don't I? I'm such a good citizen. I'm a good father. I'm a good mother. I supplied. And then you have the bill come in later. So overspending is a huge challenge for folks. The second challenge from Debt.com's article is actually financial surprises after marriage. Now, we're not just talking about the fact that once you get married, well, all of a sudden the surprise of the cost of kids and the cost of a house and the cost of the car and the cost of the pet and the cost of living in the nice neighborhood and the cost of property taxes and all the income taxes and all of these wonderful things that when you get married suddenly all apply to you now. Right? Remember, marriage is a huge industry and the government's really good at getting money out of married people. But it also can be a surprise where you marry someone and you come to realize suddenly they have huge amounts of student debt that they never mentioned because you weren't married before and it wasn't really something that you talked about. Or worse, they have credit card debt themselves. And now you've married into that debt. Now remember something. This is a very important idea about debt too. Debt is literally slavery. You may as well put shackles on your hands every time you put yourself further and further in debt because you're working to pay for that debt. It doesn't matter if it has interest or not. The fact of the matter is every time you go to work to get a paycheck to pay off that debt, you're working for that person now. You're not just working for your employer, you're working for your debtor. That's slavery. Debt is slavery. Now it's very different from credit, but that's discussed in a different video. So the third thing that they list in that Debt.com ad is actually credit card debt itself. People have a tendency to rack up credit card debt because they think, oh, well, I can just pay a portion of it down or I can pay a little bit down. But here's the real challenge nowadays is that interest rates on credit cards are so incredibly, outrageously high that it's almost impossible to pay them off. It's almost impossible. So you got to remember something. A long time ago, 1920s, 1930s, maybe even into the 1940s, and before that actually, usury laws, it was actually against the Christian religion. I got to think about how I want to phrase this for you to understand, okay? It was a mortal sin, according to the Christian religion, for millennia to charge your neighbor interest on a loan. It was a mortal sin, right? And then that carried over into America, right? And so then they started charging interest, but it had to be a low enough interest that it actually made the person who was loaning the money a little bit of money that was reasonable, right? But it also was low enough that it allowed the person you were loaning the money to the ability to actually pay it off. Because when it's high, like it is now, it's near impossible. They actually, if you look back, you look in TV shows and movies from not too long ago, there's a term, a phrase that's used for really high interest rates on loans. It's called loan sharking. And the rates that are being charged by credit cards right now used to be considered criminal in the United States. Go look it up. You look at a credit card now, you're paying 18, 20, 24, 30% on a loan. That's what they're giving you when they give you a credit card and they let you spend that money. That is a loan. And that high of an interest rate is near impossible to pay back. That's why it was considered a mortal sin. Because by the time you pay it back, you've borrowed $100, but you've paid $2,000 to finally get it paid down. all that interest and all that just to borrow $100, it is sinful. It's a criminal thing. Except that, well, all of the banks and all the credit cards moved to Utah or to Delaware, where those states said, oh, it's okay to go ahead. We don't care. Feel free. You know why they did that? They needed some kind of industry to come to their state. So they decided to loosen the laws on morality and lending money, lending laws, right? Well, isn't that convenient for the banks? But now it's so prevalent and people are so used to it that nobody questions it. So when you get credit card debt, you're talking about, holy cow, loan sharking rates. Stay away from that. That will definitely cause stress in any relationship. So the fourth challenge that Debt.com named is actually a really interesting term. They chose financial infidelity, as if you're cheating with the money or you're cheating on money. But really what they described it as is when partners don't tell each other about expenses or spending habits, right? They try to hide things. They try to hide that they went to the store, or they lie about how much they spent. But it always comes out because you're always going to get a statement. So yes, you're going to get caught. Why bother lying? You know, this again, it's about managing expectations. You want, as one part of the relationship, you want to be able to spend and get the cool stuff and have the nice new clothes and the nice new car, or the nice hat or the nice bag. And your partner's working so hard and wondering why can't we ever get ahead in the bills? Why are we always behind? And then when it comes out, holy cow, the relationship is up in flames, right? Well, if you were the one working, earning that money all the time, you find out that the other person is spending it all, yeah, you'd be upset too. Now, the fifth idea that Debt.com named was a really interesting change in culture, right? This one, they said, is credit rating differences. How interesting that something as abstract as a credit rating could cause challenges in a relationship that's based on love, right? It's based on emotions. You love this person through sickness and through health. But if you have bad credit, well, I don't know. It didn't say anything in the vows about credit differences. It didn't say through good credit and bad credit. It just said through good health and bad health, right? Even though health will wipe out your credit, especially with medical bills nowadays. Isn't that a very interesting thing? Now, and one of the things they said in the article was that most folks who got divorced because of money will probably not marry again unless that person has a good credit rating. You know what they're actually saying is, they're saying that credit rating, I should say it this way, people who have a good credit rating are more reliable, right? They make their payments. They don't take on debts that they can't afford to pay back. They're typically good financial individuals, responsible. They're responsible financially, right? Well, wouldn't that be the kind of person you want in a relationship with you anyway? Someone that you can count on, someone that you can trust, who's going to tell you the truth, someone who doesn't overextend themselves. So culturally, to be measuring ourselves with a credit rating is just a very interesting and new way to discover whether someone is actually of like mind. Are you responsible? I mean, are you watching this video and you're thinking, oh, wow, I've got some work to do? Or are you thinking, wow, that's a really good idea. I need to find somebody. Maybe that's how I should search through, my dating services. Do you have good credit? So, I mean, it's something to consider. It's just a really interesting shift culturally. We went from, in some parts of the world still do, but we went in America from, where we set up who our kids are going to get married to with other parents, right, to now they fall in love and love is all that matters, except it's not all that matters, to, well, now if you're going to get married, well, what's their credit rating? Just something to think about. Remember, though, it does speak volumes to someone's behavior patterns. So the last one, number 6, that Debt.com actually lists is student loans. When you marry someone and you know that they're going after more degrees or furthering their education, at first you think this is wonderful. They're dedicated to bettering themselves so that they can earn more money. Now, one of the videos that I did not too long ago talks about how the higher you go up in education, the lower your ceiling gets on earnings, because it's really only entrepreneurs that have a limitless ceiling on what they can earn. When you go for a PhD or a master's, you're going for a job. And every time you work for somebody else, there's going to be a ceiling. They're not going to have you making more than they make. Unless, of course, you're in sales. If you're a salesman and you're absolutely vital to the company, there is the possibility you may get paid more than the CEO. But it still won't be that much more. It's always the entrepreneur who makes more. So when you get married to someone or you start a relationship with someone, finding out later that they have $50,000, $100,000, $250,000 worth of debt, maybe they're a professional student and they're constantly going to school to avoid having to work, and they're constantly racking up more and more debt, that can absolutely ruin a relationship, because that debt is $250,000 or however much in student loans, debt slavery. And guess what? The federal government loans that go to student loans, those don't get forgiven. You have to pay them back. You have to find a way. And what if you can't find a job in your profession? So student loans are a big part of the reason also. I think more than anything with this video, the takeaway I'd like people to get, everybody watching this, is the idea that mastering your own personal finance first, standing on your own 2 feet, is way more valuable than you can ever imagine, especially if you decide to involve yourself in a relationship with someone else who maybe isn't necessarily as stable financially, or maybe isn't as honorable, or doesn't have the integrity that you have. If you're stable enough and you can stand on your own 2 feet and you're reliable enough, you may be able to help them learn to be stable. You may be able to provide them with a model so that your love and your support and your help can actually help shape them into a better person. But here's the catch. They have to want to learn that skill. They have to want to be part of a relationship like that, where you're the stable one and they're learning to be stable too. So be very careful. It's absolutely true. In fact, I would even go so far to say that almost every divorce comes from financial challenges. It may be it ends up being infidelity, that they cheat, or it may be that they just start fighting about something else. But always the cheating or always the something else can probably be traced back to finance specifically. The lack of freedom, the lack of opportunity, just lack, period. I mean, really, if somebody is cheating in a marriage or in a relationship, it's because they're not happy. If they don't have the freedom, the opportunity, and they're not communicating and managing their expectations appropriately, it's all going to start and it's all going to spin wildly out of control. That's just a fact. It's just really interesting to hear people talking about this again, because this is not the first time I've heard this in my life. Almost every few years, somebody comes out again with another study that says divorces are caused more and more by finance, or the lack of education on finance. And so actually, this is a really good spot to mention if you're interested in learning more about finance and actually learning how to manage your own finance, and not just manage it, but actually help it grow. I would strongly encourage you to take our course, The Richest You Mastering Money. The link is down below in the description, and it can teach you things that you've never heard anywhere else concerning money and how to make it grow and how to manage yours. So I hope you find this information really, really helpful, especially in any relationship that you're dealing with right now. And if you like the video, please give us a big thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for every time that so that you're notified, I should say, every time that we put up a new video. We really enjoy creating these videos for you, and we hope you enjoy them too. So make sure you let us know in the comments below. And if you have questions, comments, or observations, I would love to hear them, and I'd love to be able to answer them for you. All right, guys, I look forward to talking to you again soon.